Welcome to Rationality, Reason, and Reality. I'm Supernova. Today I'm going to discuss a couple of very closely related logical fallacies. Now, a logical fallacy is a mistake in logic. If somebody commits one, you ought to point it out, give them back their argument, and have them retool it and represent it to you. The first one I'm going to discuss is one that almost everybody is familiar with because it's so pervasive, so common. It's ad hominem. That's a Latin phrase which means to the person, and it's basically a personal attack. It boils down to dismissing an argument because of its source, because of the person who makes it. And that's logically fallacious. It does not matter who presents an argument. So long as they give you the same premises, it should still lead to a conclusion. It does not matter who presents it to you. One of the tales that kids are told is The Boy Who Cried Wolf. And if you're not familiar with this, a boy is tending a flock of sheep, and he cries wolf, and the villagers come running to defend the sheep, and it turns out he's lying. There's no wolf. And after he's done this a few times, they develop a pattern where they assume that he's a liar. And when the wolf does attack the flock, he cries wolf, and nobody comes, and the wolf eats the sheep. Now, there are two lessons to get from this story. The one obvious one that almost everybody gets is don't lie, because it will hurt your credibility. People will think you're a liar and will dismiss what you say. But the more important lesson to get is don't dismiss a liar. The boy is telling the truth. Even though he's a liar, he can tell the truth, and he does when the wolf shows up, and the town loses a flock of sheep because they don't believe him. There's a cliche that even a stopped clock is right twice a day, which is literally true. It's coincidentally right twice a day. You shouldn't dismiss something just because it is normally wrong or normally a bad source of information. It doesn't matter. They could be coincidentally right. Uh, and along this vein is something very similar called personal abuse. If somebody calls you a name, even in an argument, they're not committing a fallacy. They're just being dismissive. It's a last line of defense for people who are losing an argument. They're not going to win you over by calling you a name. They're just protecting their own egos at that point. But they're not committing a logical fallacy. If somebody calls me an idiot atheist, they're not committing a fallacy. If somebody says you don't understand the Bible because you're just an idiot atheist, then they're committing the fallacy of ad hominem. You ought not to do that. I've heard another one that atheists make where they say that John Smith, the guy who founded the Mormon religion, was a con man. He had already been maybe not arrested, but he had been found guilty of committing a con before he came up with this whole Mormon church. And because of that, we ought to dismiss his claims about Mormonism. And there are plenty of good reasons why we ought not to believe that the Mormon religion is true, but that's not one of them. That's ad hominem. They're saying, well, his credibility was hurt, so he shouldn't believe anything he says. He could very well be telling the truth about this experience and everything. Even if he has committed cons in the past, he does not everything that comes out of his mouth is a con. So that would be committing ad hominem. Now, a very closely related fallacy is the argument from authority, and almost everybody I've heard seems to get this one wrong. They think it's an argument from bad authority, and by doing so, they commit ad hominem. When people say you ought not to listen to creationists when they talk about biology because they're not experts, that's committing ad hominem. It does not matter who makes those arguments. If you look on Wikipedia at the argument from authority, you'll find that it's taking a deductive argument, something that ought to necessarily be true, and basing it on probability. If you think that a biologist who is talking about evolution is necessarily right just because he's right about most things on that topic, you're committing a fallacy. You ought not to take his argument in the same way that you ought not to dismiss his argument just because of the source. He is probably right, just in the way that a liar is probably lying about something he's lied about many times before, but it's not necessarily something that's true. People make mistakes. They have biases. We're not perfect. So don't take somebody's argument at face value just because you trust them. One of the big Christian arguments from authority here is whenever they say it's true because it's in the Bible. Even if the Bible was 99% right, and I don't think so. I point out mistakes in it all the time. But even if you think that the Bible is usually right, it's not necessarily right on things that you can't verify except by taking them from the Bible. You have to have some sort of outside evidence to verify it, because the Bible isn't an authority just because you believe that it's right about a lot of things. That would be committing the argument from authority. It's not true just because some certain authority says so. So I hope you appreciated those. I'll come out with some more logical fallacies soon. Please feel free to comment, and of course share this video and subscribe if you like it. Peace.